The reason why I have NVIDIA and Apple is I really feel like lately they are the compass leaders of the overall markets. What a lot of times you will see with these two is, and I could show you more clearly here. I'll just pull this up. I like using this two chart thing. It's fun for me to be able to show a couple of different charts at once. So the top chart is Apple and the bottom chart is NVIDIA. And you would think because they're both, in tech, they both have AI, that they would kind of work together, that they would run together. And sometimes they do. But what you're also going to see is that there are times when NVIDIA will sell off, or I'm sorry, Apple will sell off, right? Boom, 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 4 days in a row. And on those same 4 days, you're going to see NVIDIA climbing higher. Sorry, choking. Boom. Right? So that's kind of odd. It's not really, it's just a rotation from these two particular stocks. It's really quite unusual to not have them really line up with each other. You can see NVIDIA. As NVIDIA got way extended towards the end of the year, you saw NVIDIA kind of top off here and start to lose momentum. And while that was happening, this was happening. They sold this and bought this. And then when they started dumping some of their Apple, they bought this. And then when they dumped this, they bought this. I mean, you can see and then once in a while, you'll see them moving together until this happened, right? Whoops, let me draw a straight line. You could see better, until this kind of pullback thing, and you can see right there that NVIDIA started giving it up before. You started seeing this happen like this while this was still moving up higher. Then eventually, they both started to go down, eventually going down, and they both caught a little bit of a bid. This moved down as this went up. See that? Down, up. So these are really, really important stocks in our market. And sometimes when they do actually move together like this, that's really an indication. That is a really strong, bullish move in the markets. That means they're not rotating out of one to the other. That means they're investing in the markets with both hands. And unlike here, right? So if you look right here at this moment in time, when Apple is going down and NVIDIA is going up, it's not a lot of conviction. So this would be on May 2nd. So let's go to May 2nd. I could just pull up something like the Qs. And just see if there's anything. Yeah. So look at this. You see? This is the NASDAQ right here. Look at this. May 1, May 2, May 3, May 4. Look at this. Nothing happening. While this was going on right here, okay, right between the two lines here, see that? See this market action? Kind of just sagging, not really doing much, actually pulling back. Okay. Apple was selling off, but NVIDIA was moving higher, or the other way around, whatever it was. They both were not together. But 4 days later, look what happens. Wow, we really get a big move in the NASDAQ. So let's go back to the two charts, and you'll see. Together. You see it? Does this make sense? So when they're both working like this together, then the Qs, as an example, move higher and higher. When Apple, this is the the inverse. When Apple was giving it up for 4 days straight, rotating the money into NVIDIA, you really weren't seeing the markets move until Apple kicked into gear, but Nvidia stayed strong. And as they did, the markets moved up together. So they're really strong stocks, as we know. The market cap is insane between the two of them. They're at the top of the S&P 500. So I like to look at these two stocks as sort of market leaders. And I look to see on the daily charts, where are they both trading at? And what I see is Nvidia, after this nice big run, about 2 weeks ago, flattened out. Flattened out. Not only that, as it flattened out, what else happened? Apple sagged down and started trading below the daily 20 and the daily 50. That's a very significant level, the 50. Main reason, it's an institutional level. And usually when price comes down to the 50, the algorithms kick on and institutions start buying and hedge funds buy. That's why when you look at the 50 period simple, take any chart you want. Well, you could take NVIDIA, but let's look at something like UNH. Obviously not recently, but let's see if this kind of lines up. Let's see. Well, here's the 50 right here. Yeah. So you're trading below the 50. You bust up through it. It holds, and then buyers come in right there. Right there. As you surge, here's your pullback. Look at the pullback. See, the white line is the 50. You see it right here? See how buyers come in right here at the 50? Up, pullback, retest, below, and then finally buyers come in, shoot straight up. Look how it comes down right here. Look, 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 look. Boom. Right to the 50. Couple of days below, buyers come in. Boom. Come back, retest. Buyers come in. Boom. Then you gap down on earnings. That's bad. But what does it do? It struggles to get back up above the 50. When it gets back above the 50, what will it do? It'll come down and retest it. Look at the retest here of the 50. Right here. Look. Bang. You see it? When you break the 50, meaning there's no institutional buyers coming in, that's when it really sells off. Because if they're not there to, save the ship, down it goes, right? Until what? Until you break above the 50 and it has to hold. Here, not holding. Here, you finally got a break above the 50. So you got a surge. It'll come back and retest. Look at the retest here. See it? Right there, right to the almost to the penny. Everybody see it? And now look at it. Bang. So the 50 is a really strong level. And so when I look at market internals, and I call this a market internal because it's a compass stock, I look at, the 50, I look at the daily 20, obviously the 200, the 100. And with Apple, this break of the 50 is pretty significant. So this trading below like this, while NVIDIA is trading above the 50 and above all these moving averages, this leads me to believe that they're kind of giving up on Apple, but putting some more money here. Very difficult for the markets to rally. However, the last 3 days we've had a rally, right? Have we not had a little bit perhaps, right? Over the last couple of days? Well, look, boom, 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 right? This is all in retrospect. How do you know where it will go before the move? Well, it is in retrospect, but what it shows, that's what I'm showing now. What I am going to do is go forward and give you bearish and bullish indicators. So hold on a second, Phil. We're almost there. But the truth to the answer to your question, the truthful answer to your question is I don't fucking know. And neither will you. And neither will anybody. Because Trump could drop a verbal bomb and blow up the market for a day or two. Or Investors could sell bonds. You know, overseas investors could dump the dollar. A hedge fund could decide, you know what, I'm freaking done with Google. Out it goes. Down goes NASDAQ, right? So there really is um, this is a high probability or a probability numbers game. It's a high risk probability numbers game. And so you don't know what's going to happen before the move. However, I've created a methodology that when you look at a number of market internals collectively, you can get a sense for where the markets could be going. And that creates a narrative, Phil. Not an indicator, but a narrative. The narrative is not tradable. The narrative gets then backed up with if-then statements. So let's just say my narrative leads me to believe that the markets will, over the next week, be bearish. Then I have a couple of if-then statements. Well, I'm thinking bearish. And if the 10-year Treasury yield gets back above 4.5, if the VIX gets back above the 20, if the put-call ratio starts moving higher above 0.76, then those are indications that I was right. And then I'll put on a pilot position and start trading bearishly. If it continues, I will add to the trade and lean into the bearish position. But because of the amount of the portfolio that I have going bearish, I'll probably then at that point add a hedge. So this is like step by step by step. You're probably new. So this is new stuff for you. But that is the process. That's the methodology that we use here. 5 years running with a pretty decent track. So just stick with me here. So the last 3 days, you have been seeing Apple and NVIDIA moving up together. You have been seeing that, okay? But still trading below the daily 50. So I got to give that a bearish view. NVIDIA, it's up 4 points and it's trading. It's making higher highs, higher lows. Okay, I got to give that bullish. But keep in mind that even though NVIDIA is now going to be up here at 140-ish, it is now absolutely going to be overbought. The RSI and the daily chart overbought. Already the momentum indicator dropping. Already the cycle indicator pulling back. So this move could be all there is. And unless you get movement from Apple and Google and Microsoft and the rest of them up, all the way up, and then you get up to 6,000 and don't bounce off it to the downside. Okay, already S&Ps are up 78, whatever it is, 79 points already. I mean, depending on what happens in the overnight, you might open up at 6,000 or higher. The question is, what happens when the market gets to 6,000? Profit taker's going to say, okay, I got my money. Let me get out. All those people that bought the 6,000 puts, the 600, calls on SPX or futures 6,000 or 600 calls. You think they might take profits when we hit that number? I think so. So we got to be careful and not just jump in. But again, let's just look what's been happening and then we'll come forward. If we look at the futures, ES futures here, right? So we've been previously at this level before, 59, 80-ish, and we're now at it again. And we failed this time. If we move up a little higher in the overnight, but we fail here again and get back under 5,900, then you'll see the VIX start to move up higher. If the VIX starts to move up higher and gets north of 20, then the rally's done. That's a big if. If, however, the market's, at least the S&P 500, gets up here and blasts through 6,000, the first thing I'm going to look for is the pullback to 6,000. If it holds that pullback, and if the other indicators that I've talked about as I go forward here in a few minutes hold, then you might be in the midst of a rally. When that happens, we start to ease out of any short positions we have. The hedges that we have, we collect money on that or roll them forward and start moving to slightly bullish positions. But we are far from making that course correction. So I am going to look at 5,900 and 6,000 tomorrow and just see what holds. Just open this up a little. Yeah, so here you go. Here's 6,000 right here, getting awfully close. And here's 5,900, 5,950, not of consequence. These are the two levels right here. You might bust and then break. And then the question will be, what happens with that level right there? If this level can hold, then you can hold a little bit of, rally. But if it breaks, no rally. So we're going to be watching for continuation of NVIDIA, continuation of Apple. Can Apple get above the 50? Can NVIDIA bust 140 and gap and stay up there, or does it gap and crap? Does this gap and crap? We'll have to watch these two, because if this gaps and craps and this gaps and craps, forget about holding 6,000. You see how they all kind of work together.
Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video from Trade With Me Now. Make sure to go ahead and like this video and subscribe to our channel so you make sure that you catch our next video right when it's released. Also, if you have a question or comment, please leave that in the comment section below. And of course, if you want to learn more about Trade With Me Now or join our community of profitable traders, go to tradewithmenow.com. There's also a link in the description below.